Why does the MAGA movement consistently exploit national tragedies to push false narratives and further their political agenda? That question looms large following yet another example of this disturbing pattern in the aftermath of a terrorist attack in New Orleans. Instead of focusing on facts, supporting victims, and uniting Americans in times of crisis, Donald Trump and his MAGA allies immediately jumped to blame migrants and push anti-immigration rhetoric, before the investigation even revealed the identity of the suspect. The New Orleans attack resulted in at least 15 deaths and more than 30 injuries, leaving a city and a nation in mourning. However, instead of calls for unity, MAGA Republicans seized the tragedy as an opportunity to advance their anti-migrant agenda, spreading misinformation and fueling division. The reality? The suspect was not a migrant, but an American citizen, a U.S. Army veteran born and raised in Texas. This fact didn't stop MAGA leaders, including Trump, Don Jr., and Marjorie Taylor Greene, from jumping to conclusions and weaponizing the tragedy for political gain. In this video, we will break down the misinformation campaign, examine the facts, and expose the pattern of lies perpetuated by MAGA leaders to divide Americans and obstruct bipartisan solutions. Misinformation in action. Trump's initial response. Shortly after the attack, Donald Trump released a statement on his social media platform that immediately blamed migrants and framed the incident as evidence of the dangers of immigration policies under President Biden. Trump's statement read, "When I said that the criminals coming in are far worse than the criminals we have in our country, that statement was constantly refuted by Democrats and the fake news media. But it turned out to be true. The crime rate in our country is at a level that nobody has ever seen before. Our hearts are with all the innocent victims and their loved ones." Rather than expressing genuine condolences and focusing on facts, Trump's statement perpetuated fear-mongering narratives about migrants and crime rates without evidence. He exploited the tragedy to advance his political goals, falsely associating the attack with immigration issues even before authorities completed their investigation. The reality. Who was the suspect? Contrary to MAGA's claims, the suspect, identified as Jamsudin Jabbar, was not an immigrant. He was a 42-year-old U.S. Army veteran born and raised in Texas. Reports confirmed that he had served in the U.S. military for several years, including in the reserves, and was battling mental health issues. Fox News, despite initially amplifying Trump's narrative, eventually had to backtrack and clarify the facts. They reported, "To be clear, the suspect was born in the United States, served in the U.S. Army, and was a veteran." This acknowledgement came only after Trump and other MAGA figures had already flooded social media with inflammatory misinformation. MAGA leaders amplify the lies. Trump's false narrative didn't stop with him. Prominent MAGA voices quickly echoed and amplified the misinformation. Donald Trump Jr. He tweeted, "Biden's parting gift to America, migrant terrorists," citing unverified reports that the suspect crossed through Eagle Pass, Texas, days before the attack. Marjorie Taylor Greene. She falsely claimed, "New Orleans terrorists detected crossing the border 2 days ago. Shut the border down." Rob Schmidt, a far-right media figure, blamed Democrat open border policies for the attack and accused Democrats of showing indifference. These statements ignored the confirmed facts and sought to leverage fear and xenophobia for political gain. The role of right-wing media. MAGA's misinformation campaign relied heavily on right-wing media outlets and obscure sources like Insider Paper. These platforms amplified unverified claims that the suspect was a migrant and entered through Eagle Pass. Fox News eventually fact-checked Trump's claim, but only after their initial reporting contributed to the misinformation storm. This strategy highlights a broader trend where MAGA-aligned media outlets act as echo chambers, prioritizing ideological narratives over truth. Bipartisan solutions sabotaged by MAGA. While exploiting the tragedy, MAGA Republicans also blocked bipartisan efforts to address immigration reform and border security. President Biden had backed a bipartisan border bill negotiated by Republican Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma. The proposal included provisions for stricter border enforcement, labor supply reforms, and penalties for illegal activities. Despite its strong security measures, MAGA Republicans, led by Trump, rejected the bill to deny Biden a legislative victory. Their actions undermined real solutions to border issues, prioritizing political strategy over national security. Veterans and mental health. Overlooked issues. The suspect's background as a veteran raises critical questions about mental health services for former service members. Instead of addressing these systemic issues, MAGA Republicans have proposed cuts to veterans' benefits and programs that support mental health. Elon Musk and MAGA-aligned economists have even suggested eliminating disability claims for veterans suffering from PTSD and other service-related conditions. This disregard for veterans' well-being highlights the hypocrisy of MAGA's pro-military rhetoric. The New Orleans attack underscores the importance of facts, compassion, and unity in times of crisis. Instead of providing leadership, Donald Trump and the MAGA movement exploited the tragedy to spread lies and deepen divisions. Their misinformation campaign distracted from real issues, including mental health support for veterans and comprehensive immigration reform. President Biden, by contrast, responded with measured leadership. He urged Americans to avoid jumping to conclusions, committed to sharing verified information, and expressed genuine solidarity with the victims and their families. His approach demonstrated the importance of prioritizing truth and empathy over political gain. As we reflect on this tragedy, Americans must reject divisive rhetoric and demand accountability from leaders who exploit national crises for personal or political agendas. The MAGA movement's repeated attempts to weaponize fear cannot go unchallenged. Instead, we should focus on real solutions that protect all Americans and honor the truth. Stay informed and engaged. Subscribe for updates and help us fight for integrity and unity in our politics. Together, we can ensure that tragedies are not turned into tools for division but catalysts for meaningful change. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video to keep the conversation going.